How's it going, one feather? It's been a while.
It's going very well, except it's hotter than blazes here in the Midwest. It's pushing upwards into the mid 90s and with high humidity. So this is not September weather for those of us who are dwelling around Lake Michigamme. But evidently the powers that be, the forces that be, have deemed it necessary for us to have a sweat lodge wherever we go.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very spiritual experience. You got to get into it.
Yes, it can be. Unfortunately, when people are driving their little cars into each other and getting hysterical and things are amping up, then it's like Then I feel called upon to be that presence of peace in the midst of the turmoil. So you can tell it was as I was doing my morning shopping this morning. I go out and shop early in the day, and all the clerks and all the different people I encountered were kind of grumpy, kind of edgy. So I was doing a lot of smiling and reassuring, and things will always get better because they always get worse, and that's the way the pendulum works.
Unexpected heat, huh? That's yesterday or today? Today's
Uh,
almost.
Yesterday, today, and tomorrow, I think we've already broken like 25 records, and it's getting even more shrill over the next 48 hours. So, and
That's
my kids are going to a Cubs game in Milwaukee tomorrow, and it's going to be 95, and the hot dogs are going to be boiling, and the players are going to be passing out in the field. So it should be a very interesting thing.
yeah. It was actually really cold last night or yesterday here, and then I woke up and it seems to be really cold this morning too. I haven't been outside yet. We have kind of late days around here, but I think you're stealing all the heat from us over here. What's up with that?
Yeah,
You
I'm
know,
not sure. I'm not sure why Mother Earth is feeling so tumultuous. We're getting a lot of Earth activity. It seems like between mega storms and earthquakes, but Jesus, assured us that that would be the state of this world. There will be, you know, all of these phenomena trying to make us believe that the dream is real, and it simply is not.
exciting. To change the subject real quick, but an ACM gather, I have not gotten any response. And yesterday they were not hearing me as well when it was active. So hopefully I'm not still having these technical issues. I don't know what's going on, but we might just be on YouTube today. That's okay.
Yeah, that's interesting. Is anybody showing up in the chat room and saying we can't hear you?
No, and I've typed in and asked and said and nothing. They said
Hmm.
to Kimmy and then dead. Oh, we hear you. Okay, thanks, Dove. Thanks, Lynn. Okay, finally. They had to get off the toilet to come say that. Okay, so
They were at the refrigerator. They were getting ready for that mid morning snack or early afternoon snack.
yeah, just wanted to make sure it was happening. So, how's life?
Life is good. I was doing a little meditative work this morning, and I have a shamrock plant. And if people, could understand that plants are as alive as donkeys and kitty cats and puppy dogs, I think it would make everybody a lot less hyper about, being vegan and that sort of thing. 'Cause I've had 2 ficus trees, 2 ficus trees, and 2 ficus trees. And I've had 2 ficus trees, 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 and I've had 2 over the years that attained heights of over 10 feet. And I have had ongoing dialogue with those trees there, the entire time I had them around me. And I find that plants are amazing communicators, but you have to be willing to acknowledge that they have the same level of sentience that the rest of us critters on the planet have. But shamrocks are amazing plants. They are the most deliriously happy plants you will ever find. They are like babies when babies are giggling and bubbly and all that sort of thing. So if you really want to bring a little bit of happiness into your life, go out and get a shamrock plant, because they're just, every time you walk by them, you can kind of sense that they're giggling and bubbling and just expressing such a pure level of joy in life that they're enchanting.
And I'm looking it up, but isn't it like a big 4-leaf clover? Oh no.
Well, it's got 3 leaves, and yeah, it is a similar type of plant, and it is a national symbol of Ireland, but deemed to be very lucky. But beyond that, I think that a lot of Irishmen were sensitive to plants because they noticed that the shamrocks were very happy by nature, and so they venerated them to one degree or another. And it really is fun to be enchanted by plants, just like people are enchanted by their cat or their dog. So,
You're speaking to someone that is mostly Irish himself as well. And as far as getting into communicating with plants, yeah, you have to actually want to, for one. Some people definitely look down on plants because they don't have brains, and we think our sentience comes from our brain, and even capability to move and comprehend things comes from this brain aspect of ourselves. Even like, as you're saying, donkeys and rabbits and so on, they have brains, and many would say that. And it's funny, I watched a little episode of some space movie or a show or something, and yeah, thinking of how even involving ourselves with other species, that you're naturally like have this look about, someone will look at this species differently, and we how do I explain? It's easy to be looking down on somebody when you don't even know it, and even like, as far as plants, we just would pass them by, not thinking that there's any communication going on, not thinking that anything's available there, unless we are somewhat aware that there is a possibility of communication there. It's like, we were just passing by. We're not even aware that we're just thinking of them as lesser beings, and thinking of them as pathetic and just either in the way or beautiful or something. But it's interesting how we don't even, a lot of us don't even, it doesn't even cross our minds.
yeah, that's true. I was very fortunate. I was raised by my grandparents. My grandfather was definitely a mystic in his own right, and I picked up a lot of things, a lot of qualities from him. And he was a person who talked to plants, who had, that silent communion with plants. And I think one of my things that I carry with me to this day from that Native American lineage is a little bit of a pattern with my speech. If you're around Indians very much, you'll notice that when Indians talk, they'll do a or a randomly throughout their speaking. And that was something that I unconsciously picked up and unconsciously do whenever I talk. But my grandmother was an Anglo woman, Irish, English, Scot ancestry. And she was also a big communicator with plants. And she was amazing. We had a house full of plants and a yard full of flowers. And so I grew up in an environment that was somewhat apart from mainstream America. You know, Wally and Beaver never really engaged in a lot of tribal processes, and I was the kid in the back of the room at school who was looking through a different lens at the world that I was experiencing. And I think that's a good thing. I think that, you know, everybody has something that they offer, they bring to the table, and more often than not, it's the angle that they perceive the world through. So it's a wonderful thing to be able to integrate and share and have the experience of being able to take off the goggles that we wear and look at the world around us through somebody else's perception periodically, because it helps us realize that, you know, again, the ego is so adamant about this is the way the world is, and all you have to do is just bump into somebody on the street corner and get that shared experience, get that shared vision, and you realize, oh, none of this is what I thought it was.
Yeah, I can definitely relate of seeing the world differently, kind of being born to offer a different perspective to the universe, opposed to, I was actually raised in somewhat a, I've came, no one was talking to plants around here. They'd be locking themselves up if they started doing that. And as far as I remember recognizing that my father was racist, and I was shocked. I was like, "Oh my gosh, what is going on?" I had no idea until it was like deliberately recognized or offered or whatever. And so I was like blown away by it, and to see that actually happening, because it doesn't even really cross my mind. And I understand that I've only mostly I hardly see a whole lot of other, as in this area, it's mostly Caucasian, and so it's kind of unusual to see different skin types and stuff, and as far as as a child, so I was like, oh wow, so it was a new thing. But as far as looking down on them as easily as a plant, absolutely not, or an animal. It's like it's unusual that's still what that archaic mindset is like still available. And it's really a recognition that, yeah, it is somewhere in me, but I'm also, say, that, I don't know, that state of breaking out of it as well, and really had a whole new mindset on the world. And I was, as far as my perception of it, I was kicked out of my first elementary school, and I didn't really know why. I mean, I was in the principal's office all the time. I was in the hall all the time because I guess I was the class clown. I would have too much fun. And as well as, I remember getting in trouble because I couldn't read very well, and it was my turn to read in front of the whole class. And I just saw the world a lot differently, at least as far as looking back at it many years later and knowing, like, I didn't make sense out of the world in the same way. And I was diagnosed with this dyslexia. Why I can't, it sounds funny when
Yeah,
uh,
dyslexia. You got to get dist.
yeah, dyslexia. And as much as I like that for an excuse, it really was a recognition that I see the world differently, and you don't notice that until you start seeing from other people's perceptions or perspectives, and either literally or just start to realize that they are seeing something different than you. and it just all of a sudden you're like, wow, I realize I have something else for the world, something to offer that is different, than what has been going on, and everybody's wants to be the same, and it's as much as we're all unique, uh, definitely recognizing that I was quite extreme as one of these supposed indigo children and stuff, and so it was just a whole new, and it was very helpful and peaceful to recognize that no, I'm meant to be different. I'm meant to see the world differently. I have something here that it might be before its time, but it's we're allowing it to happen, and
Absolutely. And in a lot of ways, there's similarity because, like I said, I grew up with people who were more plugged into a tribal consciousness, a tribal culture, which is much more organic. It's seeing the world as a circle, seeing the world as being inclusive of everyone and everything. So whenever you go out and you encounter tribal peoples, generally, not always, but generally, there is a mystical aspect to the culture that is much more accepted, that people are much more willing to adapt to than you find in the European traditions and the American tradition, uh, because we have made ourselves immune to the possibility that anything around us is intimately joined with us. And that gives us that option of murder and rape and pillage and colonization and attack and all of those aspects of the ego, that the ego is very, very committed to uh, perpetuating on the planet. So I think that as we start to take that voyage into uncharted waters culturally, I think we really do open up a lot of opportunity to gain not only insight, but to pick up on subtleties that mainstream culture is just moving at too fast a pace to be able to perceive, and that's really what this earth life is. It's a dance of subtlety. And if you can get to that point where you see that little nuance that everybody around you is oblivious to, then that gives you an opportunity to shed light on it and to bring it into the larger cultural awareness. So I think the tribes are starting to be resurrected. I know with my own tribe, the Potawatomi, we're part of the Algonquin culture and the Algonquin prophecies of the seven fires. And we're now moving into that stage of the new awakening, the great awakening, which is the lighting of the eighth fire. My generation was actually the seventh fire, which was that point where there had to be some kind of an eye-opening event. And I think that, the global situation right now with global warming and everything else is giving us that eye-opening event. And the younger generations now, this eighth fire, hopefully they will start progressing in the right direction so that they can, start to alter the course of the history of planet Earth. And even though it is simply a dream, we can do things better. We can do a better job of living on this planet. And that's the necessary equation that a lot of the conservatives, a lot of the people out there who just want to madly acquire and consume need to be reined in on. We have the obligation to include everything in our consciousness and accept all life in all of its forms and fashions. And as we do that, we start to see the presence that it exists in all of these different realms of life experience.
I like that fire thing. It sounds like the seven seals that there's where in throughout each dimensional experience there's seven seals, and considering an eighth is actually the first of the next, and being a whole new dimensional perspective. So that eye-opening event is pretty dramatic. It can't just be something that's happened over the years. I mean, it's quite literally gotta be changing the laws of physics and everybody noticing it and seeing it, and that's pretty intense, as well as even if it be extraterrestrial life, and technology, or, you know, quite literally, someone being lawless as far as it's concerned of physics and breaking those laws. And it's enjoyable to see it unfolding, and where it's all going to be coming from, and that gets into the prophecy of the so-called antichrist, but who's to say that Christ is against himself. And as far as in this understanding of this, as I love these coyotes. Anyway, perfect timing. So it's beautiful, and with this, I like that tribal thinking. That's wonderful, of including everyone, and just having it. I like to think of myself in a tribe, but there's just a lot of more people around, not really necessarily in the tribe, and you kind of notice some who's in your tribe or not. You kind of resonate with them in a different fashion, even just passing on the street, which really doesn't happen anymore unless you're in a car, but passing them at the store or something, and you just recognize them and they kind of recognize you. And as far as myself, you know, we all like to try and find our place to fit in, and I think of myself as a natural born mystic and natural born shaman, and that's to, like, I fit in that position if it was a tribe, but it's all like everybody's scattered around now. Everybody's kind of moved from their position. We're all over the place, and and as far as offering a whole nother insight and perspective to the tribe, you know, as what you're discussing as far as yourself, and to be able to give that insight, as you know, we all have the ability to tap into the truth of our nature and to recognize beyond this dream, beyond this reality of tribes at all and everything. But would we recognize it if someone didn't kind of make us question our reality? Not necessarily someone, but something or some experience, or something happened. You know, usually we're too focused, and that's kind of what it's about, is like we're too focused on something specific that we're designed to be doing, and it's perfect. We're striving in that talent and that ability. And as far as me, my focus in life, in my entire life, has always been about spirituality, and about this metaphysicals, and all the different laws, and, you know, say magic and miracles and all these ideas, and somehow breaking what seems to be literal to the tribe around me, and just kind of expanding beyond those rules. It is definitely going to be a common thing as soon as it happens, and you're talking about that eye-opening event. As you know, it's like the 4-minute mile. It's going to all of a sudden happen by 90% of the population that tries. And you know, as far as breaking the laws of physics and say flying or something simple as that, you know, those that try, you know, many will succeed just simply because they seen it happen. And most of us don't even think about it or try or think it's even possible, so we don't even try at all.
That's true. And one of the ways that that happens is that my grandfather used to always tell me that I needed to be attentive with everything in life, because he said there will be times when you will be walking through the woods, or you will be walking on the prairie, and the earth will speak to you, and you must be willing to listen. You must be alert to hear what she says. And that's going on at all times. But we're moving into an era when more and more people are learning how to be attentive and starting to listen. And I especially like the ones from about 35 down. So your generation, some of the younger kids out here that I'm interactive with, Stephen, and, you know, I have my little circle of youngsters that are coming through with a much more accommodating mindset, much more willing to entertain the idea that the world that they are experiencing is incomplete, and they're questioning, they're looking for some deeper answer. And so they're the ones who are starting to hear the earth speak. And the earth is our foundation, it's our anchorage. So as a metaphor, you know, the earth would be the presence of God in our consciousness, the presence of God in our lives. And I'm not talking about pantheism, but I am talking about, pardon me, the symbols that spirit uses to get us to look at the world around us and begin that journey of awakening. So this next wave, this next couple of generations are going to bring a whole new level of awareness into place. And then that is going to, you know, become perverted in its own way, just like, you know, the Orthodox Christianity went through all of its permutations. And so it's an ongoing process, but the Holy Spirit is using that process to step up and to accelerate our process, our internal journey of awakening. So I think it's a really very, very exciting, this threshold we're standing upon. You know, Mary Baker Eddy said, the astronomer will cease to look up at the stars and to begin to look out upon the stars. And the botanist will behold the bloom, the blossom, before he plants the seed. And that really is, you know, that description of a higher awareness, shifting to a higher perspective and looking out upon the stars with that recognition that I am the stars. All of this is me. This is within me. This is the self that I am.
I like that phrasing. That's beautiful. That you see the blossom before, and you know that's a very well put description or example of what the fifth dimension has to offer. And it really is, as we're focused on the mind, body, and spirit, these are alternate dimensions, to get into a little bit more specifics, is that as our the threshold or the totality of what we are is no longer focused on the second dimension, the spiritual universe, and into the fifth dimensional spiritual universe, it would become common focus. I'm being resisted here. Common focused, as far as we will be aware of it more than even, say, the body, and the body will actually be a lesser awareness. It's even possible to not see and to avoid it, just like many people say it's possible to suppress and avoid your emotions. And in the same sense, and you really can't, you still have them, but at the same time, that would be the distinction and the awareness of what the body will be like. Like we will be moving on in awareness, as we will have a resurrected body, kind of a miraculous form of body in the sixth dimension. But in that the awareness of the body will be almost as if it's no longer a concern. It's just something that it's like the wake behind the boat, you know, not worried about it. It's just happening, and our focus is on something much more transcendent, as far as even timelines collapsing. And I mean, even seeing that option of, oh, the blossom before I plant the seed. Well, then I have the choice. Oh, do I see the future of planting this seed, and then I see the future of planting this seed, and which future do I choose? And actually seeing along the timelines of, oh, even this body, oh, Devin's going to grow up to be like this and through this day, or should I put Devin over here and planting him over here? Oh, he's going to be this type of thing. And it's a wholly different type of perspective. And I really appreciate that phrasing of Mary Baker Eddy there, that just makes it a little more legible. And that's not, you're not reading it, but you're be able to, like, it's a good way of explaining it. That's beautiful. Thank you.
Yes, that absolutely is. And and again, it draws us back to the realization that there is no past or future. Everything's happening here in the now. So the seed going into the ground and the blossom appearing are all in the now. And we've decided to fractionate the timeline so we experience all these things over a period of days and months and years and centuries.
Yeah.
But the real enigma in life is to dwell in the now. Eckhart Tolle has written a couple of books that's his central focus. And a lot of the great Hindu gurus and philosophers, they were very much obsessed with being in this moment. They would totter off and go up into the mountains and find a cave and try to practice that presence at all times. We find it throughout almost every spiritual discipline as getting back to the now, letting go of that addiction to anticipation. It's insidious how it works when you think about it, because you look at the past and that creates the desire to have something occur in the future. And so you've got this whacked out experience going on of referencing desire and then thrusting yourself into an imagined future, a fantasy of the future, and completely being oblivious to the fact that all things are contained in this present moment. So getting back to that 0 point where we're living completely and totally in the present, we develop a different appreciation and a deeper understanding of what life really is and what it contains and what it can present to us. Because when you enter into the presence, you realize that everything is love, no matter how you're trying to define it. It is love. And if you get drunk enough on love, you enter the realm of bliss. And once you're into that deeper well of love, living in a state of ecstatic response to life, seeing the ecstasy in life and everything that you encounter, then you're getting back to the place where you're opening up that avenue to reconnecting to your truth on the deepest and most profound level.
Yeah, that's beautifully put. And it's true. Like, this whole dream reality is all just a reflection of what's going on within us, and so we're actually starting to experience the change. Not just mentally grasping it. We're actually starting to physically go through and dreamily go through this experience. And as far as generations to come, what seems to be actually common knowledge, will be shifting, and that whole, the dreamer of the dream will be going through different experiences and expanding. And the whole reason prophecies were even possible to be written in any book is because of that awareness of the dreamer's script and of the desire to actually recognize and experience anything. And even as the Course in Miracles does say, you will always be extending or projecting yourself. And this is referring to that consciousness will always be in some sort of dream. It's just, is it going to be an awareness of the reality being one with you or the reality being separate from you. And it's going to be an amazing ride. And it's so important that we be in the position that we are wholeheartedly right now, for, as you know, even as the lives previous, developing this experience, and that we wanted to be in review right now of having this, you know, eighth fire lit and this cosmic event occurring, and things, just the perspectives changing. You know, I was thinking just yesterday, I'm like, why are they coming out with iPhone 8 and iPhone X at the same time? And they're doing it a whole year and a half in advance of to when they usually would be doing it. And I'm thinking, someone's getting impatient over there. Like they are seeing something coming and happening, and like I'm all like seeing it as a confirmation of what I've been feeling coming as well. And like, oh, they really feel like they need to make some money before this next summer comes, and all this stuff. You know, it's hilarious, but it's like you can kind of see that it's all unfolding, and the whole idea of phones is going to be obsolete. And as far as social network, you know, that's this consciousness is far more uh, entertaining, as far as once you are able to recognize, you know, are these plants talking to me or people, or you know, what's going on. And yeah, as far as photos and pictures are nice to see on them, perhaps we can just have them installed to our little bodies.
That's definitely what a lot of the chatter is about right now, is that we are moving through this evolution of communication devices and organic phones and organic cameras, etc., that are integrated into parts of our body is undoubtedly on the horizon. It is going to happen. And, you know, it's going to be fun to watch how all this stuff unfolds. But as you were talking there, I was thinking, you know, you're talking about this event, the event horizon. We're waiting for the event to arrive.
Kind of.
And one of my guests that lives inside my mind, inside my consciousness with me, said, "Well, what if the event, in fact, is as simple as a leaf falling, and a whimsical breeze flips the leaf in the air, and it falls to the ground upside down? What if the events in life are as absurdly mundane as something that's simple?" And that pulls us back to realizing, with all the events and with all the hoopla, ultimately, the beauty of life is in that simple pleasure of watching the fall of the leaf as it descends from the tree and arrives on the ground. There is a beauty in just that linear experience. There is a beauty in the sense that the leaf has said, "I've finished my job." You know, remember what Jesus said, "It is done," when he was on the cross. Well, the leaf has the same awareness before it descends. It is done. It is over. I am returning to that which is so much greater than this mundane life. So maybe the events are happening all the time, and but we have to be in that right mindset in order to recognize that the subtleties in life really are where the greatest messages, the greatest gifts are presented to us.
Look at you, little poet over there. You got a little sea going on. There's a little roomy in there. Yeah, it's true. It's true. You know, you know, we make it out to be this huge thing, but it's a matter of perspective, especially like a leaf to us, you know, and not just from a tree, but it seems so tiny, you know. But what if we, you know, what if to the perspective of, say, without a better word, a god, this planet falling from wherever it's at and just flipping over is as meaningless to it as a leaf falling to the ground, as things shifting. And so, yeah, I mean, if I was on a leaf, I would definitely couldn't avoid the fact that that's some cosmic cosmotic. I can't even.
Cataclysmic.
There we go. Anyway, it as far as my concern, it doesn't matter to me at all. I'm changing diapers over here, and that that can be cataclysmic sometimes. Oh man. And it's fun. That's all I see it as. And just like any the rest of my life, and looking forward to this chat. This is fun. This is fun for me, and it's just I think of that what other reason to live but just to simply enjoy and have fun. And as far as not necessarily making things humorous, but just seeing that humor and need for humor in it, and that willingness to play along, like, yeah, so what, Armageddon or Arma leaves or something, whatever we want to call that. It's all the same. It's all just the same. It's just like, oh, they're gonna, it's not huge. For some reason I'm thinking of closing an elementary school or something. Okay, I'm done talking. I have nothing else to say.
Oh, I love it when we arrive at that point where the words just dry up and evaporate from our little brain. But yes, the beauty of it is discovering the beauty of it. That's the aha experience. That's the thing that most people miss out on because they're so obsessed with, getting their next paycheck and getting laid and getting fed and getting. But when we discover that underneath everything, there is this vibrational element. It is like the inhalation and the exhalation of the lungs. It is the heartbeat of the earth. It is the pulsing of the universe. And when you enter into that sacred place, when you can actually stop your brain, turn it off for that millisecond, you'll flash into an experience where you will also be aware of this vibration, for lack of better words, but it is a pulse. It is a movement that is life itself. And that pulse or that movement of life is that quickening that you realize as you get nearer and nearer and nearer to the presence of God within you. So there are all these beautiful, beautiful experiences that you can have as soon as you can disengage from pursuit, because pursuit is an evil kind of word. It keeps us on our treadmill. It makes us like the Energizer bunny, just zipping around all over the place and leaving a trail of dust. But a little do we realize that there is so much wisdom in one speck of dust that we have overlooked. And that's where we have lost our connection to our souls and to the truth of ourself. So it's easy to see how this world has become very compromised. It's easy to see how we have one tragedy after another, and we have one crisis after another, and we have one scary possibility after another. And now we've got a man in Washington, D.C., and a man in North Korea who basically are mirror image of each other. It's astonishing. It's like it's the same coin, and most Americans, and I'm sure a number of North Koreans would get very riled over that. But really, it's that same coin. You turn it around one time, and you see Kim Jong-un, and you turn it around the other side, and you see Donald Trump. It's all the same. And people avoid looking through that veil of illusion and recognizing that neither side is real, neither side is true. And a nuclear war on planet Earth, even if it does occur, the Holy Spirit's going to do something. I mean, that's just the way it works. All of this is designed to get us back to that place where we're willing to accept the atonement completely, totally, fully, and seamlessly. So it's all right if the bombs fall, because there's an ongoing state of grace called the Holy Spirit that will do whatever must be done with the falling bombs. So for those people who are out there in the picket lines trying to stop all this nonsense, what if the Holy Spirit had a plan and you were consciously out there trying to block the plan of the Holy Spirit? So, you have to let go at some point and enjoy the ride rather than trying to make the ride go the direction you want to go.
It's true. It's true. That's very wise words. I think of a movie that I think we're going to be discussing on our other video cast or whatever it is, The Fountain. I'm sure you've seen it, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and the whole fact that, after pretty much the whole world to him is gone and he's living forever, he just takes this tree in his own little atmosphere bubble. He's traveling through space, looking for, going to this one star cluster or something, and just he still has this turmoil of guilt and turmoil of suffering, and then finally he gets to a point where, even if living forever and all, eventually you have to accept that atonement for yourself, and not just of the relief of guilt, which is an obvious one, but the relief of pretty much any idea of just physicality being a reality at all. And it's quite a relieving idea. So I look forward to that movie. However, I think we agreed to watch Cloud Atlas this next time, right?
Yeah, we're doing Cloud Atlas next week. So anybody who's hanging out with us today, keep your eyes open for that. That's going to be a lot of fun. That's one of those movies that I dig out and I watch it probably twice a month. I don't watch normal television. I watch my movies. I've got a huge collection of movies, and that's one of those that's up there on my favorites list. But it is interesting how all of this is a movie, and the thing that makes it so exhilarating and terrifying at the same time is the fact that we wrote the script. So every villain out there, when they open their mouth, the words that they're speaking are part of the script that you wrote.
Yeah.
Now, turning things around and taking personal responsibility for all of this has one very, very, very profound outcome, and that is it relieves you of that sense of having been vulnerable. It relieves you of that sense of being a victim. But the next stage you have to work through then is to get past the guilt of, oh my God, I wrote this script. So there are definitely watering holes in the desert. We go from watering hole to watering hole, trying to either rewrite the script or get forgiveness or find some kind of solace in our human existence. And it's not going to happen. You have to give up that human existence. You have to give the allowance for that flashpoint where all this crap is cleared off the scoreboard, and you start off fresh. You start off in a different state of consciousness because of that contact with the Holy Spirit and God.
Yeah, beautiful. You know, it reminds me of another good movie that I would love to talk about and watch again. I know it's from the book Blue Sky on Mars, but it's Total Recall. Have you seen Total Recall?
Oh, yes, and the Schwarzenegger version, I think, is the best because
Oh, yeah.
the outcome
I
is
forgot
what
about it.
science, well, it's what science fiction is all about. It's
Yeah.
about discovering these artifacts on Mars from an ancient civilization. And when they redid it, I love the actors, I love the special effects, but the story, they just completely destroyed the whole concept by turning it into, this two factions on planet Earth. I mean, the best
Oh,
part of
yeah.
Total Recall was to take it off planet, to get the hell away from the Earth and to get out there in space, because that's what us science fiction fans are all about.
Yeah, I've seen that one, the new one once. I was referring to the Arnold Schwarzenegger one, but it's beautiful how they did it in a fashion where he doesn't even know, like you don't even know until the end of the movie if it actually happened or not. You know, it's like, did it work? Did the download occur? You know, I can't tell if I'm actually doing this myself or it's some written script. Like you don't even know the difference. And even as he played it off so very well, like he left the place, you know, it's been a while, but I need to watch it again. And he doesn't even know that it actually began. Like it's all kind of set in the same place. You know, I think of Adam and Eve in the same way. Is like you don't even recognize when you became into a body because you think you've always been a body. And it's kind of all projected onto this whole past idea. And this world is just so much more intense than we like to make it out to be. It's just so beautiful, and that we really can't see the difference between uh you know, what is our person and what is the script and what is free will, and it's like it's all the same mumbo jumbo. It's pretty intense.
It is. But ultimately, the dreamer will awaken. And that's another great movie, if you recognize that line from Frank Herbert's Dune. But all of it is a script. And you and me and we and she and he and thou are the perpetrators of the script. And that's why it appears to be that there are so many scripts running. And it's that shattered experience. Remember that Rolling Stones song, Shattered. That's what the Son of God did to himself. He got himself shattered. And now we're stumbling around in the dark trying to pick up the pieces. And things actually are starting to amp up. There's a little bit of light creeping in around the edges, a little bit more light each day. And we can get a little bit better grasp each day of where things are headed and the depths we still have to plumb. So that's the beauty of the whole experience here on planet Earth, is that awakening to this and being able to share that awakening, not even by having conversations like we're having, but by just acknowledging it and seeing it as sacred and embracing it and holding it dear, identifying it as a bunch of happy shamrocks, or a wheat field waving in the wind, whatever it is. That's the escape hatch, and that's a source of joy. So if you're not living a joyful life, it's because you're overlooking the things that are reflecting the joy back to us, that are trying to get us to pay attention.
It's true, and it's our intense focus on our person right now. You know, we're godly beings. We're the whole dang universe. I said dang. And it's just so beautiful that we have this opportunity, and from going from this eternal being coming down to this tiny little pathetic idea. It's pretty advanced compared to plants as far as our observation, but it's it's still just an enjoyable ride, that's for sure. Enjoy.
It can be when you surrender it, but if you're resisting it, if you want the roller coaster to go up when it's going down, to go down when it's going up, that's what most of the population does. We're also in resistance. And it's like, well, there are downs and ups, but they serve a purpose. So relax and enjoy them, and you'll have a good time with the ride.
Yeah, I forget that they have a choice too. As far as, I see, yeah, it's all just happening. Like it's that script. It's more of a recognition. As long as I remember and recognize where I'm living from, then, it doesn't matter if Devin's upset. It doesn't matter if Devin's happy. It doesn't matter if Devin's depressed. Doesn't matter what Devin's doing. Pure joy is back here. So it's all pure joy to me. And as far as just that recognition, so that eye-opening experience is almost necessary as far as what Devin's been through. And so a lot of people will have that eye-opening experience where it's impossible to avoid, everyone will see, the return of Christ. And that's to say, in our own little minds, our own little perspectives, if we have TV or not, it's everywhere, and it is quite literally in everything.
Yes, and it's happening on your calendar. It's on your agenda. I love that line where Jesus says, "There shall be two on the rooftop, and one will be taken and one left behind." And that sounds pretty much like a damnation quote. Oh, this guy's an idiot. We're going to leave him on the roof. But the truth is, it's that you're doing what you're doing, and your best buddies next to you, but you, for some reason, catch whatever it was, however subtle it was, and you have that experience of contact. You have that experience of atonement, and your buddy doesn't. He's oblivious to what's going on. So it wasn't a statement about judgment and throwing people into hell and stuff like that. He was merely saying, in a very beautiful way, that your connection to the truth will happen in its own time. And it's not going to be a group event. It comes to all of us at our own unique moment in life.
Yeah.
And that's why we need to relax behind it.
I like that, referring to separate people. When you first said it, I was thinking of how it applied to the ego and my body and my soul. And so as far as there would be two seemingly standing here on the rooftop, and one will be taken and one will remain, I think of as the difference between my body will stay with the world, will stay with the earth, and my soul will be the explanation of having the exaltation. It would be the one that travels and the one that moves and the one that is aware of eternity.
Oh, that's awesome. That's beautiful, because it definitely is another perspective to look at it from. So yes, everything Jesus told us was extremely personal. That's one of the problems with Christianity, is they try to turn it into a group experience. But you have to read the words of Jesus and the words of the Course, and look at it like your own personal meal. You have to swallow the pill. You have to digest the content on your own.
So real quickly, I wanted to even emphasize that rapture. I have this concern about not having. I don't really, but if you have this concern about not meeting the rapture and not be taking it up and all this stuff, which is Which is funny. It's gonna be it's gonna be both. You know, the ego personality won't be taken up in the rapture, but the reality of yourself will be, using Christian terminology. Okay. So thank you, One Feather, for this time. This has been delightful, and I really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. I love our chats, and looking forward to next week, all kinds of interactions, and maybe even another episode of our granola series. So
Oh, yeah.
we'll see how we can make that happen too.
Thank you all for tuning in and being here. You can contact One Feather through miraclewithin.org. Is that right?
TheMiracleWithin.org.
Miraclewithin.org. And myself at openandclear.com. Okay, have a beautiful day. Talk to you later, One Feather.
Yeah,